Aloha, everyone. I'm Rebecca Cummings, publisher of the Kailua Town magazine. We are doing podcast number 4 with Bobby AhQuin. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yep, AhQuin.
Okay. We are not in Kailua, actually, but the purpose of this podcast, what I really want to do, and I'm having a lot of fun with, is talking to people who are in Kailua, and in this case, from Kailua, the windward side, and just sharing the stories of how they got to where they are. And Bobby has quite the story of how he calls himself a cook, but I think he's really a chef. So Bobby, thank you so much for being with us and talking to me.
Thanks for coming to Waipahu.
I don't get to Waipahu very often, I gotta say, but it's nice to be here. And I always see you in Kailua. Bobby and I do a lot of events together. He's been a caterer a number of times. We'll get into that in a little bit, but why don't you just, let's get started from the beginning. Born and raised, like, what's your background?
So born and raised in Waimanalo. I did graduate from Kailua High School.
What year?
1,000 years ago. In the mid-90s.
Okay.
But my dad lived in Kailua, mom lived in Waimanalo, it's back and forth. I know everything about Kailua there is to know. But I left out of high school, senior year, joined the Army, and happily left the island for a little over 20 years, with half of that being in the Army.
Okay.
I didn't cook in the Army.
Okay.
I was in the infantry in the Army, so I had nothing to do with cooking. The only thing I have to do with cooking is my dish, kimchi mac and cheese.
I know, I love that one.
So that story was just, in the barracks, guys like to go out, drink heavily all night. You come back to the barracks.
But where were you? What country were you
Germany.
in? Okay.
Came back to the barracks one night. I had a fridge in my room, which is rare for anyone in the barracks to have a full fridge.
Okay.
All I had was boxed mac and cheese and a little container of kimchi. Okay. I didn't even have rice, which I normally have rice in Spam, but I didn't have any this night. One of the guys just said, just mix it together, we'll eat it. And it just became a thing. That was our thing to do on Sundays. It was like kimchi mac and cheese days. That's been going around since 96, 97 maybe. That's how long I've been doing that dish.
Was it easy to get kimchi in Germany?
Funny story is, I was in Baumholder. Baumholder is a small, super small city close to Ramstein Air Base. In our town, we had the only McDonald's in like 100 miles. But we also had a Chinese restaurant. Okay. The lady that owned the Chinese restaurant used to live here. She married a U.S. soldier. I think she was Korean though. Okay. So her menu was pretty diverse, Korean, Chinese, a whole bunch of stuff. I noticed she had kalbi on her menu, so I ordered it. Right. And I think at some point I mentioned, some kimchi would be nice with this, and she bought some out. Yeah. And then I asked her if I could just have some to take back to the barracks, and it was like a standing order. Anytime I went there, I got a container of kimchi. That's awesome. Yeah, okay. It's kind of like, feeling like you're at home eating kalbi, kimchi, and rice.
For sure. So let's back up a minute. What's your ethnic background? Because I think you've got a lot.
I'm mixed, yes. Yeah. So I'm Mexican looking, but
are you Mexican?
No, my dad's German Hawaiian. Okay. A little bit of Chinese. Mom is Hawaiian, a little bit of Chinese, a little bit of Japanese. But I think if I did a 23andMe, there's probably a million other things in there. Probably. But majority Hawaiian, German, a little bit of Chinese, a little bit of Japanese.
Okay. So growing up, did you cook a lot? Did you cook just so that you could feed yourself, or?
No.
Not really?
Not really. That was mom and, stepmom. They did most of the cooking. I kind of stood around and watched. My grandfather also cooked a lot on my mom's side, but I was not a cook.
What kind of things did you like to eat? What were some of your favorite?
As a child?
Yeah. Child in high school?
I don't remember, whatever there was. Okay. I wasn't picky. Okay. It's kind of, it's an old school family, so if you don't eat what's on your plate, you're going to starve.
Not eat, yeah.
So everything that was given to me, I'd eat. Okay. I do remember never eating poke until I could afford it on my own as a teenager when I had a job. Okay. But if you had poke at the house, it was only for the adults. There was never anything for the kids. Okay. But I had a summer job that paid pretty well, so I remember buying my first pound of poke. Okay. Went broke for a week.
Wonderful. Yeah. Okay. Cool. And then, so you went to the Army. Did you go straight to Germany? Where'd you go to boot camp?
I was at Fort Benning, Georgia for quite some time. Okay. Went through some training there. stayed on base with a training brigade, and then ended up going to Germany when the whole Bosnia conflict happened.
Ah.
So I think I was in Germany for two months, and then we were shipped out to Bosnia for a year.
Okay.
And then majority of my career was in Germany, throughout Europe, doing whatever training exercise, whatever we had to do out there. Then my last duty station was Fort Riley, Kansas, in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Which I ended up going to KU, Kansas University.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I studied finance.
Okay.
And now I'm a cook.
Did you graduate?
No.
Okay.
Close.
It's fine. Just curious.
Close, but no.
Okay. All right. So then you were just done with the Army. You wanted to pursue other things, or why did you get out?
Well, while I was going to college, I was also still active duty.
Right.
I had a friend that lived in Atlanta, offered a job at a bank. Said, hey, come here. It's great. You can do this, you can get that. In the military, you don't get paid that much.
Right.
So the opportunity to get paid 4 times what you normally make was great.
Yeah.
So I made the move, worked at a bank for less than a year. And
were you a teller? What were you doing?
Selling mortgages.
Okay. Yeah. And that was not your Kuleana? It's not your favorite? Okay.
I couldn't understand how to sell something that I couldn't grab and give to you.
Right.
It was hard. Okay. It was kind of an easy sell for me.
Yeah.
Just because I'm talkative and it was easy for me to do. It didn't compute in my head how that made me happy. Yeah. So I kind of did some sales jobs, sold some vacation rentals like with RCI resorts, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Until I got into cooking, but the cooking part didn't come right away. Okay. Bartending at a restaurant, serving, and the way I got into cooking was at a restaurant I worked at. We had a guy that came in all the time, super popular, very quiet, ate the same thing, drank the same thing all the time. We kind of knew what he wanted. Just so happened we didn't have kitchen staff at this time, so he asked for his plate. And at this restaurant, it's kind of like Southern Cajun Creole cuisine. It's a mixture of a few things, but mostly Cajun, right?
Okay.
I don't know how to cook Cajun food. I love to eat it.
Right.
Didn't know how to make it. I kind of told him I don't know how to make your food, and he said, well, if you don't make it, I'm gonna have you fired. So I kind of went in the back, and the only thing I could think of making, fried rice and some kind of teriyaki something. So I made my version of teriyaki steak with fried rice. Then I had kimchi there because I always had kimchi with me.
Okay.
I served it to him. I served it to him. And long story short, the first person that ever told me this was the best meal I ever had, the feeling I got for that was so good.
Yeah.
That my first thought was how do I keep that feeling going for the rest of my life? So that just snowballed into a bunch of culinary school. I worked just about every type of cooking position, hotels, corporate, country club was a big one where I learned, more of the fine dining side of stuff. And then my last cooking job in Atlanta before I moved back to Hawaii, I was at the CDC. I was their executive chef for a while, yeah.
Interesting.
So the corporate company I worked for took over the CDC location, and I worked there for quite some time, which was great because you're feeding a ton of people, and you've got to have 6, 7 different cuisines serving: Indian food, African food, Japanese food, Korean food, American food. Yeah. It was a huge undertaking.
Cool. It seems like going through all of those different environments, I guess, is the best thing you could have done, right? Hotel, high-end country club. It just seems like that would just teach you a lot.
Yeah, the learning experience was great because I got to learn, at the hotel, you got to learn behind the scenes. Yeah. Accounting was the biggest thing there, right? How to order food.
Great. How to not waste stuff.
Labor control, all that. Okay. Country club was more making your plate look fancy, pretty for all the high-end clients.
Right.
Corporate dining, you're talking about, fast. How do we feed 4,000 people in 4 hours?
Yeah.
And it's all buffet, cafeteria style work.
Sure.
And then in between all that, I was doing a little catering here and there, small festivals in Atlanta, just to serve Hawaii type street food, kalbi, teriyaki chicken, those type of things that you don't really get everywhere else. Poke,
Right.
Which at the time living in Atlanta from 2003 to 2008, sushi was just making a boom at that time. So no one really knew much about it.
Right.
So all of our favorite spots that we go to eat, we'd ask them, "Can you make poke for us?" They're like, "No, we do sushi, we do sashimi."
Yeah.
So I was like, "We got to do this at a street festival just so people can taste it." But now sushi is huge in Atlanta.
Yeah. Poke is huge in Texas, where my brother lives. Poke is like all over.
All over the place.
All over. So. Awesome. So, were you thinking about moving back home kind of while you were in Atlanta? Did you like being in Atlanta?
I love Atlanta.
Yeah.
I
It's a fun
thought I
city.
was going to be there for a while. In the back of my head, I always knew that I'd move back to Hawaii at some point in my life.
Yeah.
And it was usually right when mom and dad needed me to be here to take care of them.
Sure.
There was no real timeline. I just knew eventually I'm going to come back here and I'm going to not leave after I move here.
Okay.
It just so happened, right time, right place. It was time to move on from Atlanta here. I miss the place. The food there is incredible. Everything about Atlanta was great. That's like my city. It's not super large. It's not super small.
Yeah.
They've got every ethnic variety of food.
Yeah.
There's a ton of stuff to do. The beach is down the road.
Yeah.
You go to the mountains in Tennessee, up the road. A lot to do. But yeah, I made the jump kind of when my mom said, "I'm thinking about retiring."
Okay.
And then, all my siblings have kids that are growing up. So I kind of told myself I'd like to be around and be an uncle and, help with whatever my family needs back at home.
How many siblings do you have?
A lot.
Okay.
So my family is kind of mixed. On my mom's side, I have an older brother, sister, and a younger brother.
Okay.
My dad's side, I'm the oldest, but I'm the only one for my mom and dad.
I got it. Okay.
And then my dad has 2 younger boys, and my sister's the youngest.
Okay.
She's also the bossiest, the loudest.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so I have a lot of siblings.
Okay, that's cool. And so you're like in the middle of them.
Yep, smack dead in the middle of everyone. Yes.
Cool. That's fun. I mean, it's fun growing up with lots of kids around. I can imagine.
Yeah.
Until they're bossing you around and beating you up. But okay, so what year did you come back home?
2014.
Okay, and did you move to the windward side? Where did you?
Yeah, went back to mom's place in Waimanalo to start there and kind of get my foot planted and getting finding a job. I worked a couple cooking jobs before I landed the job at Aulani, which was great. I mean, benefits are great, place is great. It's technically pretty easy work over there.
Okay.
What
year did you move back?
2014.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
And then right away I got into Aulani, and the experience there is good. It's a great company. I loved everything about it.
Okay.
Then the pandemic hit.
Oh, fun.
Yes.
That changed everything. Real fast before we start going down that road. I would assume you came back and visited while you were gone for those 20 years, but kind of when you moved back, did you have any observations or thoughts about how things had changed? Did anything?
So while I was in the Army, H3 was built.
Really?
And I remember coming back and my mom took me over the H3. I'm like, where are we?
Oh, wow.
What island is this?
Yeah.
Where are we headed? So I didn't even know that was going on.
Okay.
I didn't even know Kapolei was a city.
Okay. All right.
That's how long I was away.
Okay.
But when as I visited, I just noticed a lot of older places closed, mom and pop shops closed.
Yeah.
A ton of extra buildings popped up.
Yeah.
A ton of extra homes popped up. A ton of extra apartment buildings popped up. A lot of the places that I used to frequent that I thought was kind of secret were just overloaded with tourists. Not a big deal because we depend on tourism, but you're kind of like,
What are
that
some
used
of
to be
those
my
places?
beach. So in Kailua, as a teenager, Kalama Beach flagpoles was a spot to boogie board.
Okay.
So we just ride our bike there, boogie board all day on Saturdays and Sundays. Now, you can't even find a place to sit at flagpoles.
Yeah.
Even the private driveways that you used to be able to walk down that has a right of way, I hear now you can't even walk down because the homeowners in the area is kind of blocking everything off.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sucks, especially when those small, like Andy's Drive-In, Kailua staple.
Okay.
And I remember going there with my mom all the time. I remember having a small arcade.
Where was that located, just for people?
Where the It's at the corner on Oniava and across the tattoo shop in 7-Eleven. It's a parts store now.
Oh,
O'Reilly's.
O'Reilly's.
So where
That was
O'Reilly's
Andy's Drive-In. Okay.
Yeah, that used to be Andy's Drive-In.
Okay.
Very good crinkle cut fries there.
Okay.
That's all I remember outside of the arcade.
Okay.
But small spots like that's no longer around. It's kind of everything got rebuilt.
Right.
So they're gone. And like Target, that used to be Dai.
I know.
That's
Which used to
gone.
be Don Quixote.
Yes.
Which used to be Holiday Mart.
Holiday Mart, yes.
Yeah.
A lot of places that are completely changed. Some, the landmarks are still there. Kailua Park, Regional Park is still there.
Yeah, yeah.
The beaches are still there. It's just no parking at Kailua Beach.
Yeah.
I think they've been doing construction for 20 years over there still on the roundabout.
I don't know what year we're on, but it's supposed to be done soon.
Thankfully, Waimanalo hasn't changed.
Yeah.
They can't change, right?
Right.
2-lane road, in and out.
Yeah.
I mean, they put some nice crosswalks to help the kids cross in. There's been some accidents.
Yeah.
Same stores has been there since I remember as
Right.
a kid.
Yeah.
Beach Park is still there. Everything's pretty much the same in Waimanalo. It hasn't changed, which is great because that's like whenever I need to decompress and get away from the noise, I'm headed that way. You'll
Does your
find me on the beach.
mom still live there?
Still live there.
Okay.
Right across the beach park. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. Nice. I was just curious about your thoughts, being gone for so long and then coming back. And then you decided eventually to move to the west side. Is that because you were working at Aulani? It was closer?
Yeah.
Okay.
So some of my shifts were starting at 4 a.m.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Driving from Waimanalo, I'm talking about waking up at 2.
Yeah.
So the drive it wasn't smart for me to stay that side.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you enjoy it over here? I mean, I'm sure there are benefits and good things, but do you ever think about moving back to Waimanalo?
End result, I'd love to live in Waimanalo
Yeah.
and have a house there.
Yeah.
It's also homestead land, so
Okay.
we all know what's going on with that.
Okay.
You'll be forever on the waiting list.
Yeah.
Secret is, if you're on the waiting list, you can purchase homestead. So if someone's selling their property and you have the means, you should purchase. A lot of people complain about, I'm waiting on the list. But if you can purchase, there's homes available.
Giving away the secrets here.
Yeah, but no one's trying. They're just complaining
Yeah.
instead of trying.
Okay.
But I live in Ever Beach at the beach.
Okay.
So it reminds me of Waimanalo. I can smell the salt air. I can
Right.
hear the waves. It's very, very similar to Waimanalo, just 100 degrees hotter.
Not as much rain.
Super hot. No rain at all. None.
Okay. Okay, so the pandemic hits. It's 2020. What happens? Like, as you're working at Aulani, are you happy? Are you thinking of kind of maybe taking some next steps? Or are you just pretty much cruising?
I think the first couple of years, I was just trying to, get used to the system and save money. But throughout the whole time I'm in Hawaii, I was catering on the side.
Oh, really?
I was doing friends' birthdays. I was doing smaller weddings. Some grad parties. A lot of friends that had kids in club sports, I'd help them do their like fundraisers and stuff like that. So through that, they kind of referred out, said, hey, Bobby can do this for you. Bobby can just call him and see what he can do.
Okay. Were your friends surprised? Like, were they? I can imagine they were pleasantly surprised at the quality of your food and how good it tastes. But were some people like, wow, I had no idea, you could do this?
Yes, I mean, there's some dishes I make that no one else makes. Plus, a lot of people don't know me as a cook, as friends from a long time ago.
Right.
In high school, I was an ROTC guy, so all people remember me of is that military kid.
Really?
Yes. So they don't really know me as a cook, but coming home to cook, a lot of my friends are super excited.
That's awesome.
They're kind of like, just make something for us. Doesn't matter what it is.
I hear. You can make anything for me.
Thanks.
At any time.
Good job. I was still catering throughout the whole time I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, small parties here and there. And then when the pandemic hit, Aulani chose to shut down.
Okay.
Well, not chose. I think we were forced to shut down
I think
anyway.
I think everyone had to.
So when they did, they furloughed all employees.
Okay.
And when they furloughed us, I remember having a conversation with my auntie, who lives in Aiea. She's retired, and she kind of asked if I could make some plates for her, because I'd make random plate lunches for my aunties, my uncles. And she said, "Can you deliver?" Sure. What do you want? She said, "Just make me a week's worth of lunches."
Okay.
Made a week's worth of lunches, delivered it to her, and she said, "My friend wants some meals too. Can you do it for her?" Like, yeah, just let me know what you want. She's like, same thing I got. Make it for her
Yeah.
tomorrow. So I did that, and then her friend referred another friend. So it ended up being like 9, 10 friends.
In the same complex.
Yeah, all in
Yeah.
the kind of the same neighborhood.
Yeah.
And right then I see, I think this might be the thing to do.
Yeah.
Pandemic, we're not doing anything else right now.
Right. Yeah.
And see how this goes. A couple other friends that worked with me at Aulani or left Aulani that I was still friends with, I just kind of reached out and said, hey,
Yeah.
you bored? Let's go make some bentos and just deliver
Right.
to all of our aunties and uncles that don't want to leave the house. They're
Yeah.
scared.
Right.
You know, they can't go shopping.
Right. Yeah.
And we just, for a good, I think 4 months, we were just pumping
Wow.
Monday through Friday. We do
Okay.
bentos just for lunch.
Yeah.
Just like 3 or 4 items you can choose. Very small bentos. Like I think $7 was our most expensive one.
Wow.
And then we deliver
Yeah.
all across the island.
Okay.
So it did good. And then they slowly started calling people back to the hotel.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was already fully engulfed in the catering side.
Yeah.
I was thinking about getting a food truck because my goal at some point was to run my own food truck.
Okay.
And that's when we started getting so busy doing these bentos.
Yeah.
First thing I thought is now we can do a food truck. Now we can get out there on the street.
Yeah.
So when they called us back, I already had a food truck. And going back, I remember even telling my chefs, I said, chefs, you know, I'm doing pretty good out there.
Yeah.
If my schedule does change too much and I can't do the other business I'm doing, it might be time for me to step away.
Yeah.
So I said, I'll give it like 6 months.
Okay.
I think it lasted like 3.
Okay. Okay.
After a couple of months, I just said, chef, I think I'm done. I make more money
Yeah.
and I have more time off and I can do whatever I want
Right.
on my own.
Right.
It's scary because I'm going to be on my own, but I think I have enough business out there to where it'll sustain me for
Okay.
a good time.
Yeah.
And-
Okay. So wow, this is relatively new. I didn't know that. Like your own Kalama's cuisine.
No, I've had it for a while, but
Okay.
being 100%
Yeah.
just this,
Yeah.
2021.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Clearly you went through the pandemic and the pandemic lasted forever here.
Yes.
But what, aside from pandemic restrictions, what have been some of your biggest challenges being on your own?
So the hard thing is I don't do just one thing. I'm a caterer, I have a food truck,
Yeah.
I operate this support kitchen with a partner.
Yeah.
I also do like personal chef work, whole bunch of things that I'm into. The hardest part is sourcing food. So for
Okay.
some programs, like tomorrow I'm going to deliver some food to a Native Hawaiian program at UH. They like to have 100% source Hawaii food,
Yeah.
which is great.
Right.
Finding the product sometimes is hard. Like right now, ulu's out of season.
Yeah.
You're not going to get it unless it's frozen.
Right.
And it's super hard to find.
Okay.
And everybody knows that I make a lot of ulu hummus. You know this.
I do.
That's
It's
my favorite thing to make, yes.
Delicious.
So trying to find ulu this time of the year is hard.
Okay.
It's usually like a March to late May type
Okay.
fruit to get.
Okay.
Sourcing that, and then you obviously got to work with prices.
Right.
We don't get a lot of our products here.
Right.
Milk, eggs, produce, meats all come in from everywhere else except for Hawaii.
Yeah.
You can purchase all that stuff here. It's just a little bit more expensive, and you have to pay your clients.
Right.
If I use this product, it's going to be a little bit more expensive.
Right.
For the most part, some of the clients are like, support local, do
Right.
it,
Yeah.
we'll pay. And I'm totally down to support any local
Yeah.
farmer,
Right.
rancher, whatever it may be. Sometimes you're not going to find a product.
Right.
Like let's say somebody wants sailfish for their wedding.
Yeah.
If the fishermen don't catch it,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I can't get it. So it's going to have to be something we can always get, like ahi
Right.
and mahi, which are the two most popular fishes we can get in Hawaii fresh.
Yeah. So that is one thing that I love about you is that you try to use local products as much as you can, and even if it's not, I guess, a local product or whatever, it's local flavor. Like you bring in the taste of Hawaii into everything you do. Even if someone is vegan and wants, whatever, you'll not do beet poke, you'll do something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you also try to be different,
Yeah.
which I love. I think it's so cool. Can you
Okay.
just talk a little bit about why that's important to you and why you're so committed to that?
Yeah, so I noticed working at Aulani, they're big on allergies. People with dietary restrictions and allergies, gluten-free, vegan, vegetarian,
Yeah.
pescatarians, they're very strict on that. And the chefs always preach to us, if we have an allergy, the chef has to take care of it. Most of the time, they're going to cook the food.
Okay.
Every once in a while, they'll say, hey, can you make us gluten-free pasta? Got it.
Sure.
You know? So kind of learning that process at Aulani, and they call this thing magical moments. So when you have somebody with a dietary restriction and then you deliver them a product, let's say we're eating Mickey waffles. It's not gluten-free,
Yeah.
but we can make a gluten-free Mickey waffle.
Okay.
So delivering a gluten-free Mickey waffle to somebody with celiac disease was a magical moment, which made them feel, special, just like everybody else that's eating a Mickey
Right.
waffle.
Okay.
So in my head, I'm thinking when I'm doing catering, it'll be smart for me to learn these dietary restrictions,
Yeah.
and then also accommodate all those people that have allergies, peanuts, tree nuts, shellfish.
Right.
I heard somebody was allergic to watermelon, which
Wow.
I don't believe, but
Okay.
it happens.
Okay.
But accommodating them is the best thing, because imagine if you're a vegetarian and you go to a wedding,
Yeah.
how often are you going to be accommodated at a wedding, being the only vegetarian?
You're gonna eat the salad.
Yeah, and
That's
everybody
it.
knows you're going to get a salad or tofu. Right? So I
Yeah.
had to come up with some ideas to make them feel just as special as everybody else.
Yeah.
Which was one of the first dishes I made here that was vegetarian was fruit poke.
Okay.
And I just took fruits with different textures and made a poke out of it, right?
Yeah.
And that, a lot of my close friends liked it, and then I started getting to catering with that.
Yeah.
Beet poke came as a fun trick on friends
Right.
because it looks like ahi
Yeah.
until you eat it, and then you're like, this does not chew like ahi, but it's good.
Yeah.
It tastes just like it. If you do it right, it comes out just like ahi
Well,
poke.
didn't you told a story about friends who didn't know that it wasn't fish,
Yes.
which is so fun.
I just let them eat until they figured.
Was there beer involved also?
There was.
Okay.
I think after a while they figured it out. But
Yeah.
yeah, like beet poke.
Yeah.
And then if I'm doing a wedding, I always ask the bride and groom if there are people with allergies.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
let's say their menu is kalbi, a fresh catch with macadamia nut, mashed potatoes, rice. Someone's like, I don't need dairy. So they can eat the rice, but if you want the potatoes, I'll have to leave out the dairy. But dairy's a big portion of mashed potatoes, right?
Yeah.
But if you're eating like no tree nuts, so macadamia nut mahi you can't have. I'll take the macadamia nuts out and have a separate portion, just so that person feels just as special as everybody else in the wedding. It helps because in my experience, and it's never happened to me,
Mhm.
those are the people that's going to complain.
Right. Yeah.
Like, oh, you gave us a green salad with tofu. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
That's
trying to
awesome.
accommodate those folks to me is a magical moment, because when they feel like they've been accommodated better than everybody else, it's a good feeling for them. Like, oh,
Yeah.
look what they made for us.
Yeah. Yeah. But then also, why is it so important to you to use local as often as you can? Because I know you talk about you grow a lot of herbs and things in your yard, but you also recently went to the Big Island, I think, or Maui, and
Yep.
just wanted everything local you could possibly get.
Yeah.
Why is that so important?
So
I mean-
a couple of things I learned. The pandemic, we rely so much on food from everywhere else. People don't understand that we have it here.
Yeah.
And if we're not supporting our local farmers,
Yeah.
they're going to be out of a job. You might have a farmer that has a wife and 4 kids, and they depend on selling lettuce.
Right.
If you're not buying their lettuce, they can't survive. What are they going to do with their farm that they're probably leasing?
Yeah.
Their house, they have payments. Their kids got to go to school. So, supporting. I remember seeing a lot of stuff on social media about how you got to support the farmers now more than ever, and people did, but
Yeah.
they're complaining about prices and all that. Well, unfortunately, companies, the large box companies, they can get everything for cheap because they're buying it in millions of pounds.
Yeah.
We're talking about 2 heads of lettuce for one farm.
Yeah.
So supporting a local person keeps them in business,
Yeah.
keeps their family, fed and
Right.
clothed. And then also if they have workers, we're talking one farm could probably support 100 people.
Yeah.
And even if it's 2 heads of watercress, like you're supporting a lot more than what you think. If you really think about it, you're supporting a lot more than you think. Especially in Hawaii where we depend on tourism.
Yeah.
We depend on filling hotels,
Yeah.
filling Airbnbs,
Yeah.
So helping out the farmers, even local ranchers that sell meat products, supporting them keeps them in business, keeps them and their livestock going.
Yeah.
And those ranchers are probably have more employees than anybody else on the islands.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that makes sense. So for people who don't know, how do you find local, this is going in a different direction I thought it would, but that's fine. How do you find local farmers and local ranchers?
They're out there. You just ask. You can ask. Okay. You can look them up online. Okay. There's a couple of co-ops that you can go to that'll tell you this person does beef, this person does pork. We have these fishermen. Excuse me. 2018, I opened a restaurant in Haleiwa, right in the middle of Haleiwa town.
Okay.
Close to the harbor.
Okay.
So I used to go to the harbor and just find whoever's coming in off the boat and be like, how much fish do you have? Can I buy some?
Yeah.
I met a couple fishermen through that way. We bought a lot of fish from them. And they kind of told me of other fishermen from Waimanalo Harbor, from town or wherever that I could go to for fish. Instead of going to the big, the block to get fish from the bigger boats,
It sounds like it's relatively easy to find these people as long as you do a little bit of research. Yeah. Find one person and they'll direct you to others.
Pretty much. Or you can ask, you probably know a friend that fishes that might know someone else.
Yeah.
So,
And I think what you talked about just a couple minutes ago is really important, and it's not something I've really touched on yet, but it's expensive here.
Yes.
And prices are just getting more expensive. They're getting more expensive everywhere. But, and you can speak to this more than I can because you have employees, but if we are not charging what we need to charge to buy local, and say we're buying from the mainland, Costco, wherever. Not there's anything wrong with Costco, but if you're buying produce from a big box store that is not grown here, or if you're buying chicken or beef or fish that is not from here, you can charge lower prices. But then potentially you're not supporting local people.
Yep.
And if you're not charging enough, you can't pay your people what local people want you to pay them.
Yeah.
It's this big cycle. So I do, there are some restaurants in Kailua that I love, but I do hear complaints that it costs this much for a coffee and a breakfast. They buy local eggs. You know what I mean? Yeah. They are buying coffee that was roasted locally. They are paying their employees what they're supposed to pay them, which is, it's like this whole understanding, it's reframing, not looking for the cheapest option, but looking for the best option.
I think it's something a lot of people don't understand, that cycle of food.
Yeah.
Excuse me. If we don't support the locals, then there's no such thing as sustainability here, right? Like if we don't support that farmer that farms pigs, that gives us pork to make Kalua pig, they go out of business. What's going to happen with their land, their property, them and their families? Are they going to leave like everyone else is leaving right now? We can't be a self-sustained society here in Hawaii if we don't do that. Yeah, you can always go to the big box stores and buy the products that you need to make the price point right. Yeah. But at some point, if we all go to the big box stores and don't support the farmers, we're going to be losing a lot. We're just going to have hotels galore everywhere, and we're going to be out of farmers. Yeah. So at some point, everything's going to be shipped in. And if you remember during the pandemic, shipping stopped to where we weren't getting toilet paper, simple supplies, right? Yeah. So then what do you do? Right. Yeah. In my head, a prior military guy, I was like, we don't have toilet paper. It's okay. I've got a water hose outside. You know what I mean? But a lot of people are worried about eggs. So we got a lot of eggs on this island. Yeah. You just got to go look for them.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Anyway, so we've talked about a lot of things, but basically what you do some fun things. I mean, you have your food truck that I guess if you follow you on social media, right?
Yes.
Kalama's Cuisine, 2 Ks, Kalama's with a K, Cuisine with a K.
Yeah. Yes.
And then you can Bobby will be posting about where the food truck's going to be. Mm-hmm. But you'll do a lot of catering, a lot of weddings.
Yes.
And then you'll do private events, which is kind of how you and I got to meet each other. And you also, we'll talk about that in a minute, but you also have done the food, like the craft food services table for film productions, for TV shows and commercials. Yes. Is there any one of those things that you like the most? Or do you like the variety? Or that are most rewarding?
I mean, every single event I do or catering I do is always a big thing to me.
Okay.
You know, I'm still nervous delivering food,
Okay.
hoping people like it, and worrying if people won't like it. Like, how can I make it better for them? Last year, being on the TV set was like an incredible experience.
Yeah. Which TV set were you on?
Rescue High Surf. So I was on a second unit. It was the water unit. So mostly stunt people, all the lifeguards.
Okay.
A smaller set than the land unit. Land unit was double the size. You know, more hair and makeup. You don't really need hair and makeup in the water. But I got to know a lot of. To come to find out, almost everyone on that show was local.
Nice.
Everybody was local.
Okay.
And then I got to work with every lifeguard on the island.
Wow.
It was super cool. So I got to meet the North Shore guys, the Waianae Makaha guys, the some Kailua folks, some East Side Hawaii Kai, but learning through that experience on how craft works and catering works was incredible. I miss it. I actually just got a call yesterday from one of the producers that's going to be doing a small shoot.
Okay.
But that was super fun because different location, kind of not the same food, but my food.
Right. It was some early wake up times though, right?
Yeah. I mean, breakfast got to be ready at 5. Yeah. That's when everybody gets on site. But different locations and seeing different things going on was super cool. And then being behind the scenes while they're acting and shooting and doing water stunts and dives and all that. Yeah. Incredible.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
But they all have a special place in my heart. Like, we did some wine dinners together. Yeah. We've done some special at house, wine dinners with just 6 people. Yeah. I've done some wine farm to table events in Kahalu at a farm, which is super cool because I use whatever they have on property. Okay. I learned about how a cacao pod is broken open, how they make
chocolate,
and the process to me was incredible. I actually had Michael from 21 Degree Estate open a cacao pod for me.
Oh.
So I could actually taste there's a fruit nectar that comes with it.
Okay.
So I wanted to see what that was like, and I actually used the pod for the dinner later that evening. Yeah. Okay. So learning all those things in the food is super fun. That's awesome. You find out things that you never knew, like, how was honey made? When we were at last week. Yeah. At their house. And how they harvest their honey. Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah. That's fun. That's very cool. So basically, Bobby is available for all kinds of things. Catering, weddings, special events. But we met, we were talking, I think in 2022?
Yeah, it's been a couple years.
It's been a few years.
2 or 3.
But one of our mutual friends, Faye Vasquez, we love you, she has worked with Bobby on sets of commercials and things like that. And she we're part of the Kailua Chamber of Commerce, and she was hosting a pauhana, and she brought this guy to do the food. And so Bobby and I were talking, and I know you had a gazpacho. It was a watermelon gazpacho. I remember that. Did you have the kimchi mac and cheese?
Yep.
I think you did.
Yep.
And then there was probably some kind of skewer of some sort. But I just had so much fun talking to you, and we just exchanged cards, magazine, catering, whatever. And then I was doing kind of a wine thing, and I needed food for a networking group I'm part of. And so I reached out, and I just wanted food. I literally just wanted food, cheese, crackers, whatever. And Bobby's like, let's do a pairing menu. And I was like, didn't know you could do that. But it turned out to be so good. Yeah. And that started, we've done so many of them. Yeah. We've done a lot of them now. And I quickly learned that, because you'd send me a sample menu, and at first I was like, how about we change this to this? And now, basically, I'm like, whatever, yes. Thumbs up, we're good. So they're so fun. So I just enjoy working with you. It's so much fun. You're so easy. You're always on time. There's always much more food than needed. Always. You're not going to go hungry if Bobby's catering.
That's the biggest scare I have, is running out of food. Even if the food may not taste the way someone likes, they're going to eat it, right? Yeah. But if there's no food, that's the worst thing ever. So I try to make it a point to always have extra. Yeah. Always.
That's cool. That's so fun. And okay, so I know this has been your prep kitchen in this space where we are right now in Maipahu. Recently, earlier this year, end of last year, you opened this little dining area.
Yeah, kind of like a lounge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you here? I feel like those hours also depend on your catering event schedule. So there's nothing set, right?
No, not right now. So we opened, I think October, we did a lounge type setting here. Okay. Nighttime, more heavy poo-poos. Some stuff that I had on my wedding menu that everyone else in the public didn't really get to eat unless you went to one of these events.
Right.
So I wanted to make a menu like that, like, smoked ahi dip or, like bulgogi bao buns, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we opened this place for dinner, and it was great. And then this year I was just bombarded with wedding caterings, which I didn't foresee.
Okay.
Because sometimes, like, I got an email this morning for a wedding on July 7th.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in 10 days.
Yeah.
Which is kind of how it works sometimes.
Okay.
And it's rare I say no. Unless I cannot, if I'm booked, double booked, or I'll say no.
Okay.
But that's kind of how this year started off. And from January 1st was our first wedding.
Oh my
all the way up until
July 7th.
maybe May 30th.
Oh, wow.
Like, we were just doing weddings after wedding after wedding after. Some weeks our busiest week was 4 weddings in a week.
Goodness.
Granted, some of them were only 25 person.
Yeah.
Some of them were 100.
Yeah.
Just depends. I try not to go over 150. That's a little bit too much for me to handle.
Okay.
Only because I take the food truck out to the venue and I try to cook everything there as much as possible, just so the client understands that it's not going to sit in a hot box for 6 hours before you eat. Yeah.
Perfect. But you have a little expansion maybe happening here.
Yeah. So I've got something coming soon that I'm still renovating and trying to piece together. I'll announce that soon.
Okay.
But it's something I'm working on. It's another addition to what I'm doing. I'm trying to stay as multifaceted as I can. Okay. So instead of just doing one thing, like just running the food truck.
Yeah.
I also have a support kitchen.
Right.
I have the lounge here. We could do lunch or dinner here. Okay. And then I'm gonna expand to another thing here coming soon that we'll be working together more often. That's for sure. Okay. But I'll announce it once I have all the pieces in place.
Okay, perfect. Do you have any other, as you're looking ahead? I mean, we're at the middle, almost dead center of 2025, which is crazy. But do you have plans or ideas or kind of goals for the next year or 2 or 5?
Yeah, so I got to go to Maui and Big Island last month or the last 2 months just to kind of hang out with family and visit things that I haven't really been to Maui and seen the landscape and all that. Yeah. Got to eat at a nice Italian restaurant there. Got to learn there's a lot of goats on Maui. Okay. A lot of goat cheese on Maui, which was incredible.
There's one of them you can walk baby goats.
Yep.
I want to do that. Did you do that?
No. I was there to eat, not to walk goats. And then on the Big Island, I have family that live there. My brother them just purchased land on Big Island. So I think 2 to 5 years, I'm looking at purchasing land, outer island, cultivating that into some sort of farm, some sort of sustainable property to where if I need to get away and just chill out for like a month, I could do it somewhere and be self-sustainable. Nice. That's awesome. Even if that means, growing produce or something and selling it to the local markets. Okay. But that's my short-term goals. I think long-term goal would be probably a nonprofit. I've always wanted to do a nonprofit. I had this goal when I left Aulani in 2021. By 2030, I wanted to have a nonprofit that helped nonprofits.
Oh,
that makes sense.
Okay.
So a lot of nonprofits I see, they're trying to do events and fundraisers and bringing underprivileged kids together in a location on a budget they can handle and do classes or events for. So I've always wanted to have a place where nonprofits can come, even if it's free or if there's a small fee, but something to where they can handle and do a complete recreation program if it needs to be. Or if they can come, I have friends in every sort of business. I have a friend that wants to do makeup classes for underprivileged women. great.
Yeah.
You know, there's also a couple places that I sponsor, shelters for women,
Okay.
single moms.
Yeah.
Done some, you know, like Valentine's Day dinners for them.
Yeah.
But having some of my friends either come here to this place and do some sort of class with them, or help them build resumes or something like that. You know,
Yeah. That's awesome.
something like that to help other nonprofits that
Yeah.
other companies that I know that need that kind of help is kind of where I'm
Yeah. Okay.
leading to long term.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I think, is there anything else you want people to know about you? Anything we didn't talk about, or?
Oh, if you need more information, you can look me up. I have a website, kalamascuisine.com.
Okay.
I don't update it often enough, but you get a gist of what's going on through the website.
Okay.
Best place to find me is on IG at Kalama's Cuisine, cuisine with a K.
Okay. Yeah.
Outside of that, I'm based in Waipahu. I'm always around to answer questions on, and it doesn't matter what it is.
Okay.
If I can help, I'll try to help.
That's awesome. I have experienced that. And stay tuned for some big news about maybe new things, expansion here.
Yes.
I might have a little idea, but I'm not going to tell you. I will let Bobby make that announcement. But I love you so much. It's so fun to work with you, and your food is wonderful.
Thank you.
And just in general, I think you're a wonderful human being. So I appreciate you sitting down.
You're
and
thanks for having me at all the events.
Yes. As I'm always like, oh God, there's a week. Bobby, are you free? I try to give you as much heads up as possible, but Bobby is just like so wonderful to work with. And our last one was a pauhana that was outside.
Yeah.
And so we did a bunch of little obscure foods that were easy to eat.
It worked out great because the homeowner's been wanting skewers.
I know, and I didn't know that, but I just knew that we couldn't have kimchi mac and cheese. You got a spoon onto a plate and then eat with a fork. You know, like we couldn't do that in that situation. But it was awesome. And then the gazpacho was great. We might have spiked it a little bit and made a cocktail.
Yeah, as long as people kind of give me an idea of theme or kind of what they're trying to do, I'm able to work around anything. As long as I know what I'm getting into, we can, you know, figure it out from there.
Yeah, that we did a rehearsal dinner at one of my friends' houses, and there were some people and we did a bachelorette party thing.
Bachelorette party.
The bride was vegan and dairy-free. No, dairy-free and gluten-free.
Dairy-free, gluten-free, yeah.
But everything I've seen Bobby do has been wonderful.
Thank you.
0 complaints. So
thanks for supporting. I love supporting everything you do.
Oh, thank you.
We've done a bunch of wine dinners.
Yeah, the wine dinners are always fun. Yeah. What's most fun to me is watching people have a really good time. You know what I mean? They usually, because a lot of it's networking stuff, and so not everyone knows everyone else. But you know, you get a glass of wine or two in you, and you're more friendly. Yeah. But people just have so much fun. Friendly. I mean, you're more social.
Yeah.
You're less inhibited.
The best compliment is someone trying something for the first time.
Yeah.
And then not blowing their mind, but they're
never
thinking
knew I liked this. I always thought I didn't like this or something. Yeah.
Usually my reply is, you just never had it made the right way.
Correct.
You know?
Yep.
So try it again. It doesn't matter what it is, just try it again.
Yeah.
If it's something you've never, ulu hummus, if you've never tried, just try it once. And then,
So it's fun. Everything we've done has been just fun. And everyone has had a great time.
Yes.
And we're just like in the background serving things, but you know.
That's the best part, watching everybody enjoy.
Yeah.
That's where I live, is in the background watching people enjoy what's going on. Yeah. Food, drinks, and having a good time.
Cool.
Thank you.
Well, awesome. Thank you guys again. Kalama's Cuisine. Kalama with a K, Cuisine with a K on Instagram and the website. And I look forward to just seeing you again, working with you, and seeing what you're doing here.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, let's eat.
Thank you. Aloha.